Hello everyone, Nishant here from Learn QA Skill. In today's video, we will be going to learn about software testing life cycle. In a software testing life cycle, there are multiple phases are available. So first we will discuss what are the different phases are there in the STLC. Then we will discuss one by one each phase in detail. First phase in a STLC is a requirement analysis phase. So in this phase, all the collected requirement have been analyzed from the tester's point of view. Next is a test planning phase. In test planning phase, test plan have been prepared for all the testing activities carried out throughout the testing life cycle. Next is a test design phase. In this phase, the test cases have been prepared based on the requirement document. Next is a test environment setup. In this phase, the testing environment have been set up based on the hardware, software and network requirement given in the document. Next is a test execution phase. In this phase, the test cases which are prepared during the test design phase, those are executed in a testing environment. Next is a test closure phase. So this is the final phase of a STLC. In this phase, team analyze the test artifacts which are created during the previous phases of STLC. And summary for all the testing activities or all the testing process have been created, that is called test closure report. So these are the multiple phases are there in a STLC. So first we will discuss about the requirement analysis phase. Requirement analysis is the first step of software testing life cycle. In this phase, quality assurance team understand the requirement from the testing point of view to identify the testable requirements. If anything is missing in the requirement or not understandable in the requirement or any doubt in the requirement or any unclear requirement is there or incomplete requirement, so if this kind of requirement is there, so the test team will communicate with the stakeholders like client, business analyst, technical leads or system architect, etc. for better understanding and detailed knowledge of the requirements. Whatever the doubts or incomplete requirement is there, so that must be clear in this requirement itself. And in this phase, automation feasibility for the testing project is also done. Next is the entry criteria and exit criteria. So entry criteria, we can say that is the input for this phase or the prerequisite item for this phase, and the exit criteria is output from this phase, or we can say that the item must be completed in this phase or before the next phase can begin. So this is the entry criteria and exit criteria. So the entry criteria for requirement analysis phase are requirement documents, acceptance criteria and understanding of the product architecture. And the exit criteria for requirement analysis phase are list of all the testable requirements and automation feasibility report if the project is feasible for automation. Next is a test planning phase. The test planning phase is the first step in a testing process. In test planning phase, typically test manager or test lead are involved, determining the effort and cost estimates for the entire project. In test planning phase, test plan is prepared based on the requirement document. In test planning, activities like resource planning, determining the roles and responsibilities, tool selection for manual and automation, and training requirements. If there is any training requirement for the team members for tools and technologies, so that planning is done into this phase only. Entry criteria for test planning phase is the requirement documents and the automation feasibility report. And exit criteria from the test planning phase is a approved test plan document including the timeline and risk or cost analysis. Next is a test design phase. In test design phase, test team starts with the development activity like test case preparation or test script preparation and test data preparation. During the test case development, tester need to ensure the test coverage, means that test cases cover all the functionalities of an software application. While creating the test cases, they have to create the positive and negative test cases to ensure that the software behaves as expected in the different scenarios, like in the positive scenarios and in the negative scenarios. Once the test cases are ready, these test cases are reviewed by the peer or the team leads and then send it for the approval. Once the test cases are created, we have to send it for the review and approve. Review can be done either by the peer members or the team leads, and approval given by the team lead or the test manager. And in the test design phase, the requirement traceability matrix also created, which is also called as a RTM. So what is RTM? So this is basically mapping between your requirement and your test cases to ensure and verify that each requirement have at least one test case. Entry criteria for design phase is the requirement documents, approved test plan including the timeline and risk cost analysis, which is from the previous phase, and exit criteria from the design phase is a approved test case document and test script if the automation is there, and test data and requirement traceability matrix. Next is a test environment setup phase. In this phase, testing environment has been set up. The testing environment includes the hardware, software, and networking configuration required to execute the test cases or the tests. In some cases, test teams or testers may not be involved in the environment setup phase. Either the development team will provide the environment, or sometimes the customer will give the test environment. Meanwhile, the test team should prepare the smoke test cases to check the readiness of the given test environment. And the entry criteria for this phase is a requirement documents, system architecture details, application design, and smoke test cases. And exit criteria for test environment setup phase is a fully up and running test environment and the smoke test result. Next is a test execution phase. In this phase, the test cases created during the test design phase, those all test cases are executed in this phase on a testing environment. During the test execution, tester need to ensure the test cases are executed according to the test plan to find the bugs. And during the execution, the tester need to capture the test result, either the test case is passed or failed. And if there is any defect found during the testing, those defects they have to report to the development team. So the bugs are reported to the development team through the bug tracking tool for fixing the defect. Once the development team fix that bug, they will release the new version of software in testing environment. In that environment, again we have to retest that software, and if everything is good, if that defect has been fixed and the functionality is working as per the requirement, then we have to close that defect. Entry criteria for test execution phase is a test plan document, test case document, test data, fully up and running test environment. And exit criteria for test execution phase is a test execution report and defect report. The next phase is a test closure phase. This is the last phase of the STLC process. The test closure is a final phase in a STLC that marks the official end of the testing activities for a software release. During the test closure phase, software tester need to ensure all the test cases have been executed and all the rest defects have been fixed and retested and closed. In this phase, the test team analyze the test artifacts such as test cases, defect report, etc., where the testers evaluate the results and outcomes of the testing process, document the lessons learned from the current test cycle, and identify the improvement areas and the actions item for the future projects. The test closure report summarizes the entire testing process and its outcome for the project. The test closure report provides the valuable insight into how well our software is performed during the test. The information plays a crucial role in evaluating the quality of tested software. Moreover, it helps to decide whether our software application is ready to release or not. Entry criteria for test closure phase is a test execution report, and make sure there is a no high severity or no high priority bugs are opened, and the defect report. And exit criteria for test closure phase is a test closure report, and test metrics.